Good evening. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting of the Granite Falls School Board Directors. I would like you all to join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Tonight in attendance, we have Director Dane, Director Ledoux, myself, Director Kincaid, our student representatives, Danica and Ariel. And I would like to make a motion that we excuse the absence of Director Carey and Director Beach. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Let's go to item number 2A, board comments and board reports. Who would like to start?
Well, I got a couple of things I'd like to comment on. First is today I had the pleasure of visiting Crossroads, and I poked my head into almost every classroom during first period and a little bit in second. Visited with students, introduced myself, and just got a overall sense of how the school worked in a snapshot. And I was extremely pleased with how the students were interacting, the staff was interacting. They were very open and welcoming to me. And after we talked, and I took a little time to ask if there was any questions, and there was only just a few. And it was, hey, can you guys help us out with a little bit? So I told them that I would bring it up at the board, a couple of things that they were asking for. One is a little bit fresher sports equipment. So basketballs in particular. They said the ones that they have feel like they've been there for a while. They're their hand-me-downs and a little underinflated, not really inspirational to go out and play. One of the comments I thought was big ask, but really a well-asked question was about a library. They don't have a library at that school. And then the most of them were about if we could help or suggest a way to be more creative with lunches. So, but it was an awesome time. And then the other thing, addressing what the board has gone through for the last month in looking for a superintendent. And this started actually a long time ago. I got on the board in March. In about May, Dr. Middleton let us know that he was going to be leaving the school and retiring school district, and helped us get started early on our process. We brought in a great team, and it took us a little while to decide what consulting group was going to come in and assist us. I think really all of us validated it was a great choice of a group. And then we had amazing applicants, and it was a very difficult process for us to go through. We had hours and hours of vetting resumes and applications, following up with backgrounds, and it came down to interviewing 6 incredible candidates. Very difficult for us all to get to the 3 that we brought in, and then in the end, we were unanimous on choosing who would move on. And I'm just excited to be a part of the process and hope that this direction that we chose. And I don't even think I have a hope for it. I know that we're going to be incredibly successful, and this school district will definitely move forward in the future. No, that's a lot. Carl wasn't here, so I thought.
That's okay. Good job.
I'm going to take some of the time as well. Now, reiterating on what you said, it was my first time going through a superintendent search. I made the rookie mistake of being old school and printing everything out. So I had 21 applications. I killed 3 trees in the process. But it was a very educational experience. I was wowed by so many of the applicants, but I am very excited to be working with Ms. Giesland here going forward. She's been here already. I don't think we can see her on the camera, but really welcome her in. This is going to be really exciting working together here going forward. As far as the reports on WIA, also, then I will, greatly thank Danica for she's equipped me with a ton of information here. So playoff basketball is a big thing right now. So boys and girls are in the Emerald Sound District playoffs. Girls won their first game against South Whidbey. Boys won their first game against Northwest. This was their first playoff win since 2006. So it's a long time. I can't do quick math, but that's many years. Girls are playing tonight right now against Cedar Park Christian. Boys tomorrow against Northwest. That's at home. So that's 6:30. Get there and support if you can. We also want to congratulate Addie Haverfield and Reagan Ferguson for being selected to the first team Emerald Sound League. And then Laura Gomez was selected as honorable mention. Also, Johnny Roberts and Hayden Gutierrez for their first selection of the Emerald Sound players. And then Jack McGill was selected as honorable mention. And then Johnny Roberts was also actually selected as the league MVP. So congratulations all around for basketball. Extremely successful year. It's not over yet. So we'll all continue to clap, applaud, and support. Wrestling, another thing. So we had 10 wrestlers qualified for district and the meet this weekend in Vashon. And so we had, I'm just going to run through the names here really quick, all placed. We had one that was first in districts. That was Chris Ryer. Everybody else placed Angel Hernandez, Rio Mover, Jax Goldsmith, Joseph Roberts, Eric Diaz, Trevor Lavens, James Roberts, Landon Jones, Wyatt Maldalena. And then actually our own very own Chris McDonald was selected as the assistant wrestling coach of the year for the Emerald Sound Conference. So huge applause all around for our sports. Small district, big heart, right? So I think that's all I have.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to start out by just saying a huge thank you, first of all, to our community, to our parents, our students, our staff, our teachers, our board, everyone for coming together as a family and making our superintendent search a success. I cannot tell you how many emails, phone calls, text messages I got from people from all walks of life. Like I said, whether it was students or parents or teachers, staff, just everyone offering their advice and their thoughts and their concerns. And we took every single one of those to heart. And just a big thank you to the board for all of us coming together. We had come from different backgrounds and we have different opinions, but we came together and we worked hard together. And we listened to each other and respected each other, and we came up with a decision unanimously. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for just all that hard work and late nights. So thank you. And then as far as a community report, I don't have any other than just saying thank you again to the community for, even if they didn't have students in the district, they came out and offered their opinions and what they wanted to see happen in this town. And I really appreciated that. So.
And that I'll actually follow up on that as well, but I understand there's the give and take of how the superintendent search goes, and do we do it all in one day and kind of flip flop around? Do we spread it across 3 days? I understand that there's the difficulty in getting 2-3 separate community events, but it really did allow for each candidate to really get a feel for the district. And then also, more importantly, the reverse. It got each school, each building, each sub-segment staff really got their time with each candidate. And the candidates really got to learn a lot about the school, and the school really got to learn a lot about the candidates. And we got a ton of great feedback. Again, killing more trees. We sat down with tons of feedback forms, going through all those. Making sure, right, because we're 5 people that represent the voice of the community. And that's what's most important and needs to be remembered, is that we're not up here making unilateral decisions. We really base our feedback off of, right, our constituents and who we support. So.
Wonderful.
Yep.
All right, moving along to, let's see. item 3A, which is an update on the superintendent search. And like, as we've said, we went down our list and checked everything off, and the last thing to do tonight is to approve contract. So we will be discussing that and doing that later this evening. And other than that, other than getting her in the building, we're done. So wonderful. Any discussion on that? No? Okay. Girls, any discussion? No, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot your guys' board comments.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Rewind. Okay, girls, go ahead.
Just sports are going really well, as he said before, and our first semester just ended this last week. And then our Battle of the Classes activities are starting next week, and I have a schedule for you guys if you guys want to
Thank you.
come to any of the few days on there. But that's really all I have.
Okay.
Like what Danica said, our first semester ended and I am very excited for what the rest of the year has to come. Our FBLA chapter, Crossroads and Granite Falls High School combine, and they have a chapter of our own, and we have 5 events that qualify for state, and I would just like to give them a shout out and give them a congratulations. And we also have our group, Sources of Strength. We're starting up planning events to bring the school together at Crossroads. We really did appreciate you from like the bottom of my heart, from everybody at Crossroads. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, moving on to item 4A, iReady assessment presentation.
Well, good evening, and I would also like to say welcome to our new superintendent. We're thrilled to have you here with us. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce several people. We have our curriculum associates implementation consultant, Petra Schaefer, who's here with us tonight, and she's going to give us some highlights about the iReady program that we use, both for diagnostic and for instructional pathways at kindergarten through 8th grade. And then after the Schaefer finishes, we'll have Mr. Maynor and Ms. Porterman who are going to be sharing with us their annual presentation having the middle school. And then all 3 of them will be here at the end for questions. So you may have some detailed questions about iReady or how that fits into their plan. So all 3 of them will be looking forward to that. And before we begin, I wanted to just share sort of a frame for this evening's presentations, because as you know, every school improvement plan in our district has 5 elements, and you'll hear those addressed both with Ms. Schaefer's presentation and then at the school as well. But every school is working on professional learning community, strengthening those. Those are data-based, so clearly that's linked. Core instruction, really looking at solid data-based, high-quality learning in every classroom. Again, that's being addressed in both. And then we've talked a lot about multi-tiered systems of support, the interventions. And iReady is a huge support for us in that. And so you'll hear about how that data is used to develop groupings, instructional supports, we can close gaps and enrich learning. And then, of course, we have the student voice, student engagement, which is huge. And the 5th component is the family voice, the family engagement. So it's great to have all of you here tonight, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, and then Tim, is this working?
Yes.
Your microphone. Okay, very good. Thank you all for inviting me to come in tonight and share with you a little bit about the diagnostic results that teachers get when they're using the iReady diagnostic assessment. And so as we think about this, I first just wanted to center all of us in thinking about what is iReady, what are we talking about? So as we think of iReady, we think of 2 primary components. The first is the assessment that we use with students to really get data to drive our instruction. And the second component is going to be the instructional piece. So as we think about that, when students take the diagnostic assessment, that will then provide teachers with insight into the students' learning across K through 12 skills. That's going to help to pinpoint the students' strengths and then their next steps for instruction. It also will provide aspirational and attainable goals for each student to get them on a path to proficiency and to advanced proficiency levels. Once we have that data, we then want to connect it to instruction. So with iReady, students are able to engage in personalized online lessons that are based on the individual skills and needs that they have. And then teachers have access to resources for whole class and small group instruction. So all of this is housed in their iReady Connect dashboard. Students are able to log in to go to their lessons, and teachers are able to log in to see all of the data. So some quick facts on the diagnostic to consider is that it's going to assess the student performance across that K through 12 continuum. So we're looking at how are students doing in comparison to the standards that are needed. And that looks at reading overall, math overall, and then by some specific domains in each of those categories. So in math, we look at numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement of data and geometry. And in reading, we're looking at phonics, phonological awareness, high frequency words, vocabulary, and then comprehension both of informational text and literature. The diagnostic is administered 3 times per year, approximately every 12 to 18 weeks. This helps teachers to see that growth piece for students across the school year. It allows us to identify the students' strengths and their instructional priorities, and then to recommend some instructional resources, as well as thinking about what are the resources that we can use to scaffold grade level instruction based on those prerequisite or related skills. It will also generate differentiated typical growth and stretch growth measures for each student, and then assigns that personalized pathway called IPATH. So as teachers look at their diagnostic results, this might be very familiar to you as you looked at some diagnostic results. We use a 5-level placement. So you can see there in that colorful bar that's differentiating between each of those levels. I will note that the data up here is not Granite Falls data, it's just some sample data that I had to speak to this. So we'll see that overall and then by domain. I really want to spend a little bit of time talking about each of those placement levels and thinking about where students are at. So as we look at this, the 2 green dots that you can see on the screen are referencing students that are early on grade level, and then also those that are placing at mid or above grade level. So the green stripe indicates mid or above grade level, the solid green is early on grade level. Many times when we hear those, and when I first saw them, I'm thinking of the timeline across the year. So in my mind, the beginning of the year, I would expect students to be early on grade level when they take the iReady diagnostic. That is actually not what we are referring to when we talk about early, mid, and late. Rather, what we are referring to is the depth at which students are entering into those standards. So I compare this to teaching my own children to swim and getting into a swimming pool. When you are looking at early on grade level, that is when students are starting to access their grade level standards. So I say for my kids, that's when they first learn to swim, they get to stay on the steps of the pool. They don't get to go in to the shallow part of the pool quite yet because they're not proficient swimmers. As students move up and they move into that mid-grade level category, that is when they are considered to be proficient at their grade level standards. So at that point, they're in the swimming pool now and they can swim from one side to the next. Proficiently in the shallow end, but they might not be getting into the deep end of the pool yet. And then when students are considered to be late or above grade level, that's when they've really gone deep into those standards. At that point, my kids are jumping off the diving board and really extending and using what they have learned about swimming to go a little much deeper. So in the same way, students are engaging with their standards, first just starting to experience the standards at their grade level, then they get to the point where they're considered to be proficient. That's what we want them to know by the end of the year. And then that late or above grade level is looking more deeply into those standards. And we would be looking to see how can we extend that learning or provide enrichment opportunities for those students. As we look at the yellow, the 1 grade level below, this is thinking about, are students ready to access their on-grade level instruction? So actually at the beginning of the year, it is okay if students are placing 1 grade level below. As I'm thinking about that, if I have a 4th grade student and they are placing 1 grade level below, that means the standards that they are considered to be proficient in are 3rd grade standards. So when they are ready.
No, we're back to where you were,
Just making sure I'm thinking about that 4th grade student and they are placing 1 grade level below. It means they know their 3rd grade standards, are proficient at that level, and they are ready to begin learning their 4th grade standards. So at the beginning of their 4th grade year, they're ready to receive 4th grade instruction. As we look at 2 grade levels below and 3 or more grade levels below, those are the students that we're really going to be thinking about what are the tier 3 supports that teachers can offer to help those students be able to think about where are their needs, and how can I help them fill in some of those gaps, while also scaffolding to be able to provide some grade level instruction for those students. As we're thinking about these placement levels, it's important to know that they are criterion reference placement levels. What does that mean as we think about criterion reference versus norm reference? Okay, as I think about running a race, if I'm comparing myself to the other people or seeing where am I at, that would be norm reference data. So that is one way that we can look at students and think, how does a student compare to their peers? How are they doing? According to how others at their same grade level are doing. And that's important for us to consider, but we also must consider how far are we from the finish line. And that finish line for us in education is thinking about what in progress am I making toward grade level instruction and those grade level expectations. And that's our criterion reference data. So when we are talking about those placement levels, we are looking at how are students placing in accordance to the standards that they are supposed to know at their current grade level. Within iReady, we have primarily we're looking at criterion reference data, but we also do have norm reference data available for teachers so they can see both of those measures. We wanted to know if these different ways that we are looking at students and measuring students' growth were working. And when we would say, when you're using iReady, we want to know when we say that students are proficient, that we were truly giving teachers an accurate picture of the students in their class. So we did some research in 21 and 22 of a linking study to see what was the relationship between the iReady diagnostic and the SBA in Washington State. Just some things to know is we looked at 55,000 students in ELA and over 51,000 students in mathematics across 10 school districts in Washington State. And what we saw as we looked at this were correlations, as you can see in that second bullet, that range from 0.82 to 0.84 in ELA and from 0.85 to 0.9 in mathematics. Whenever we see a correlation of 0.7 or greater, those two assessments are considered to be highly correlated. So we were excited to see that iReady was falling within those ranges that you can see there. This is just letting you know that as we looked at that sample of students that were selected across those 10 districts, we tried to make sure that we were representative of students in Washington State as well. So we looked across what population of students were from the city, who were from the suburbs, and then also looking at what percentage of students that you can see in those last two columns. At the state received or participate in free and reduced lunch programs, and then what percent of students are multi-language learners. And we saw that within our sample, the percentages were very close to the same percentages across the state of Washington. This is showing how that correlation looked with SBA across grades 3 through 8. So you can see on the left-hand side is the correlation for ELA. On the right-hand side is the correlation for math. And you'll notice at the top of this graph, there's a little bit of the graph that's shaded in green, showing where that 0.7 correlation is at. And you'll notice across all of those areas, you see that iReady is very highly correlated to the SBA. And as you look, you can see that the darker orange bar is the spring of the year, the light orange bar is the fall of the year. So it becomes even more correlated by spring. But even in the fall, there's still a very high correlation. So teachers can use the data that they're getting to make instructional decisions that will benefit students across the year. As we look at this graph, this is thinking about those placement levels that I spoke to earlier, early on grade level, mid on grade level, and late on grade level. And then the red line is looking at SBA proficiency. So thinking about where are students considered to be proficient. We have always said, and we're working with teachers, that mid on grade level is what we consider to be proficient for students at their current grade level. And if you notice here, the mid on grade level line is the medium blue color that you see there in the middle, and it is well above the red proficiency line for SBA. And that was for ELA. This is for math. Same thing as you look at that, the red line that you can see is SBA proficiency. And then you can see early, mid, and late in the dark blue. Again, that mid on grade level line of the medium blue color is above the red SBA proficiency line. So that is thinking about how students are doing for their performance. The next piece that we have is thinking about how students are growing. So we have two growth measures within iReady: typical growth and stretch growth. Typical growth is thinking about what is that average annual growth, so from fall to spring, that students at that grade level make when they are using iReady. Stretch growth is thinking about grade level placement. How do we help to get students on grade level? So what we found as we looked at some studies with this is that typical growth helps students to keep up. Stretch growth is going to help to accelerate students to be looking at making grade level gains. We just finished some research about our stretch growth, which was very exciting. This is looking at reading. As you look, we followed groups of students that at their initial placement, 100% of those students were currently 2 or more grade levels below. And as we follow them across 2 years, you can see after the first year, for students that met stretch growth, 53% of them were on grade level. By the end of the second year, 89% of students that met their stretch growth goal for a second year were on grade level. So we were excited to see that this was the case in reading and looking across multiple grade levels. You see the lighter blue bar, which is consistently the tallest bar, is when students were meeting stretch growth 2 years in a row. This is for math, and we see the same trend where we're looking at, again, 100% of students starting in grade 4 that were 2 or more grade levels below when they met that stretch growth goal. After the first year, 50% were on grade level, and after the second year, 75% were on grade level, and that continued across all grade levels for math as well. So we were excited to see that As students drive for stretch, this is really a tool that can help teachers think about students making that grade level. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to your Granite Falls Middle School team to talk to you a little bit more about how this is relevant here.
I assume questions around the iReady stuff will be after.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all kind of
That's what Karen.
together. All of us.
That's right, gotta turn on my listening ears.
I do appreciate no Zoom camera, like last year, that was super awkward for me, because I was like behind it.
Evening, everyone. So my fancy suit today, so I definitely want to say that tonight. And to start off, we're doing some great things at Granite Falls Middle School. I got here about in June, middle of June, and started walking around the building and started seeing some things that we want to implement. And the first thing I thought, Rachel, I want to do was kind of like you look back up. We kind of start raising the banner up, and our new theme is called Rising Above Expectations. So you'll see with that and here, then you also will see the front door. And what we did was kind of like just kept saying it, kept saying it, kept saying it. And teachers got here, and you know, it deals with rising above expectations. We put a lot of things about trying to change the culture or the mindset of what's been kind of happening. I just want you to say, I want to say first, I had big shoes to fill following this to be put his heart and soul in this building for 20 years. And I don't want to disrespect what he's done, because he definitely put a lot into our kids, and our kids love us to be. So it was a very delicate situation on me, because every time I see him, I want to say I appreciate him. Every time he see me, he's like, I appreciate you. So we still have that relationship, and I call him anytime I need something about just historical things about this building, about people, or about the students. So we have that open communication. Another thing is I want to thank her before we start. I want to thank Rachel, the Sporterman, because she's been here. And I just want to let everybody know, like I'll tell everybody else, that she could have had this job. She could have been in my shoes just as well as I'm here. So I think we are, people say she's an assistant, but I see her as a co. We work together equally, and I'll fight for her. Because I know she will fight for me. So I really appreciate it. Right. So welcome to Granite Falls Middle School tonight.
You can make a talk about rising above expectations. That's the thing. Kind of thinking about the thing for next year. Two things in my head, and I haven't told Rachel yet, because I think I got the thing for next year, but you gotta just keep moving this year. Basically, we have our PBIS representation, which is ROTS, and ROTS has been here for a long time. We kind of revamped it, brought it back, and that's means respect, opportunity, community, knowledge, and service. So respect for all, opportunity for all, with all our community, knowledge is power, and show this, and service those we care. And we try to install that into our students every day, and our staff every day. So our PBIS team have really been working hard because I think that we have to bring that back. Positive behavior, positivity all the time. I think that'll change some of the culture.
So most recently, we had a competition between grade levels that our PBI's team put on in terms of what grade level could give out the most Pop Pride cards. So Pop Pride cards are attached to our Rocks theme. So when a student demonstrates service, they're entered into a drawing, and then we do drawings every Friday. So the picture up there was actually a huge shout out to our parent group. So our parent group has been huge in making sure that a lot of the incentives we're putting in place, not only behaviorally, but academically, as Mr. Maynard will share later. Iron Mountain Quarry has also helped us out with some incentives. So we're really trying to get into classrooms, have those conversations, not only about behavior, but also about the academics and those students that are demonstrating academic growth as well. So I think Mr. Maynard gave out a record 10 Pop Pride cards to a student last week, so made that student's day.
Also, we have celebrations of more celebrations our students see. I'll talk about that when I get to that section. The more our other students will be a part of it. So I think that's kind of something that we're going to continue. So looking at our demographics, we are definitely talking about mass. We're definitely not much of a diverse school, but that's okay because everybody wants to be 100% inclusion with everyone and all our families in the building. So look at it like that. We are definitely inclusive to everyone.
Yeah, so we're really looking at kind of how we're supporting our students just to raise those test scores. That's really been our goal this year. It's been our motto. We are rising above expectations. Like we are no longer going to do what we were doing before because it wasn't working, right? So we need to do something different. So these are all of our teams right now. And Mr. Maynard will talk a little bit about our SIP planning, our school improvement planning. But we meet, so grade level student support teams. So I have the honor of facilitating our 7th graders, our counselor, our school support advocate supports as well. And then this year, which is new, we have Gen Ed partners. So we're really trying to collaborate. So it's not just the counselor pulling these teams together. So for example, for 7th grade, I get the honor of working with Mr. Mecco, one of our ELA teachers. So he actually, teachers will come to him with students that they have academic or behavior concerns, and then we will meet as a team. So for example, we met this morning on a few students. One of the things we learned early on is that we needed some new tricks. We were kind of trying the same interventions over and over again. So we ordered some learning manuals and then some behavior manuals, which have some goals in there, and then some interventions that maybe we haven't tried. So something outside of the box. So we have a lot of kids this year on point sheets. We have a lot of kids who have their own individualized passes. I'll say a huge shout out to Ms. McLaughlin. She produces a lot of these kind of consumables for our kiddos when we're trying to get students on a plan and really keeping them in class. So the focus on a lot of kiddos that are coming through our student support teams is that we have students that based on data, whether that's our ISS and reset data, which we track in the moment, or sometimes the data from us is observational in classrooms or having to deal with the kiddo more than once. So those are those meetings that are happening, and they're happening every other week. So this week was student support team. Our special education team also meets every other it's Wednesday morning. Just makes it easier on me, so I only have to remember Wednesdays. And so we meet around if we're seeing kiddos that maybe you're having services and we have additional concerns. If we need to rethink or rework a behavior plan. As of late, a team spent a lot of time on scheduling, right? Making sure that our kids were where they needed to be and getting those services that they needed to be and successful. Positive behavior intervention team, hard having Mr. Maynard out of the building, but it's been huge. So our PLC team, which there's a lot of crossover, was meeting today as part of our PLC work. So we both had the opportunity to be in there. And so that team was really talking about some of the inclusionary work that we're doing, as well as basically looking at our data in terms of how are we supporting and recognizing kiddos that are meeting our expectations or rising above. And then we have attendance team and meetings. The nice thing, we have a lovely registrar. I know I spoke very highly of her last year. She does an amazing job of contacting families. Mr. Maynard now has it in place where it's interesting that we're requiring kind of parents to notify us if it's coming in late. So we'll call, Miss Crystal will call and she'll say, hey, are you aware your kiddo came in late? The neat thing that's happening is we now have parents that know and they just come in with their kid. So it's just interesting that that was a byproduct of something that we didn't realize. It's actually getting those families that maybe have some barriers that are getting in the way of them getting here, that we can actually talk to them when they come in the moment, because they know they're going to be getting that phone call anyway. So that's been huge. So these are just some of the systems of support that we have in place that I talked about last year. We were just kind of getting going. I think now we're finally seeing the implementation, right? What it's looking like for kiddos and our staff day to day.
You know, I want to kind of add to our system, because our system is something that we gotta focus on every day, because don't keep your eye on it, but don't know if the system will break down. Another thing is about those SST team meetings. Parents also can call in and request their child enrollment. So we take parent. I think it's working well this first semester. And then we took the first semester to look at what we were doing right and what we were doing wrong and try to tweak it. And we're still trying to tweak it every day. All right, so I don't know if you know, every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, I meet with our, it's kind of like my coach, my principal coach from the state OSI. Her name is LaShawn Lee. She's actually part of our community now. She lives in Granite Falls, but she helped me with our whistle planning on our Washington Improvement Framework. So I meet with her every Tuesday about some of the things that we need to improve as far as the school plan. Also, the mid-year review. I also kind of go to the PBIS trainings. It's hard because every time I go, it seems like something really happens on campus. So it's hard for me to kind of separate. Being coached by LaShawn, she's like, you're not going to control everything. You're not going to fix everyone's problem in that day. So you kind of got to go away, learn new things, and come back to be happy. So I know when Rachel don't call me, I'm more, how's things going? So when she calls me, I don't care what news I get, at least I know something is happening. I'm not just too far away. We did a huge thing for our inclusionary practices, professional development. We took a team out to another school, it was here at Middle School, and talked about a partnership that contributes to a system-wide efforts of equitable outcome, which is inclusionary practices. And we've been doing that work already at our school, but we took a team to see it in the middle school and how it's done. I've been to another middle school to see how things are running there. And also Rachel took another team to, so I've been to Snohomish, Rachel took the team to Monroe and seen these practices. And it gave us a lot of hope. It gave us a lot of ideas. We're doing a lot of things right that our partners are doing in different districts. Also, it gave us some hope that we can change some things for next year, making sure that all of our students feel included. And also, general education classes, all our students participate in general education classes. So I'm pretty happy about that. Our PLC, learning communities, I really believe that you have to be motivated and work will get done, we'll go to the next level, like everybody believe that work, believe in that work, meaning, what she said before is, we're being stretched and typical growth. If our teachers believe in that work, we'll go to the next level. We'll go to 2 levels, but I have to motivate them to go into, believing in the IT system. And we're almost there. We're almost there. I was with a teacher yesterday, showing her how to get to the whole class lesson.
Not yet.
And that was definitely like, man, I don't know this. No, that's what this is what, and I learned it from the Iranian training. So me paying attention in training and playing this, I learned it there. So I taught her that lesson. So that goes into other things. So let me talk about our academic performance. I kind of wrote something down and it says, our students are the best students on the. I'll put our students up against anybody in the state. Looking at our data, we have students that this last benchmark have reached level 4, 97%.
93%. And compared to all those 55,000 students in our state, they were 97 percentile. We have students in our building walking around with that type of academic progress. They don't know it because really, they just think I'm just doing our regular. So we put in some incentives to motivate them. So, I'll tell anybody, our students are the best on the planet, because our students, they just gotta believe in themselves. So our step goal was pretty much, the iReady goal for this year was increasing annual typical growth from last year was 41%. My goal is to increase it to 61% ELA. And ELA got the typical growth and the stretch growth, which you talked about in the presentation. Last year it's 19%. I want to increase that to 49%. And I want to let you know our benchmark 2 that just closed out, we had the highest growth in the district as far as compared to all our students in our district. Because we kind of motivated, right?
We got into classroom. I mean, we literally, it was like, when we couldn't get in together, we would go one-on-one. We made sure that before those kiddos took that test, that they understood what the incentives were, but they also understood how important just seeing growth was. So we got a lot of the same questions. You mean if I only improve by 1 point? Like, yes. So the incentives were based on growth.
So we focused on growth, not just proficiency. The proficiency thought will come later, but growth is what we're looking for. Under the first action step, a lot of our students were just wanting to get through it. As long as I do it, so I won't get a red flag or get a yellow flag, I'm gonna just get through it. I was trying to break that mentality. Also, that's because I want to use concrete data to implement reading intervention class. And that's what we've been doing this past 2 weeks, is finding students that were 1 grade level below, that's right there, that we give them a reading intervention class. I call it reading success, because I don't like to say intervention. So I want, my goal is at the end of the year, our goal is at the end of the year, that's for that student to be on grade level. So we pulled about 20 students using that data, because I felt like that was some valid data I had.
And that's easier said than done in the middle school master schedule, right? Creating a class, making sure we have the students that need to be in there in front of a highly qualified teacher. So it sounds easier than it actually is. It took a lot to pull off, and we're still working on our math piece, but we've got a good ELA team together, and we've got kids identified. Our counselor helped immensely looking at the iReady data and making those decisions around students.
So, and that comes where you have to know how to analyze data. And I think that we're very skilled at analyze data. I really wasn't the only thing we used, a lot of different factors, but that test showed us, and that projection of proficiency showed us where we should start. So I'm glad that we actually have that tool, so that helped out. I'm definitely excited to say that if we using the data in the benchmark, the proficiency will be up 20%. If we use just the benchmark to on our SBA, we will be up 20% from where we were last year. Close to the state level. So that's my goal, is for it to be right there or above the state in reading and math and science as a student. This is basically what, if you look at the most recent benchmark.
It was last week, I mean, you're looking at fresh data.
The first benchmark, we see a lot of 2 or more, and then you see the growth that changed from here. So, those students I chose for the, what we chose for the yellow is in that yellow. So my goal is if I can get most of those students over here, I'll be happy. I want to teach students how to read. I think literacy is the gateway of everything else in our building. Now, math numbers alone, I think if we focus on literacy, our math numbers is definitely go. That's why our goal is there.
And in math, based on our numbers from last year, the typical growth was from 49, we're trying to move to 49% to 69%. And the stretch growth was at 18% to 20%. When you talk about stretch growth, if we reach that stretch growth, that's probably going to be close to your proficiency numbers for this year. It did not correlate from the typical growth last year from the SP on the SP members, but I believe that's where the motivation comes. There's a thing in our seat, so I know they're gonna do it. Going to academic too, I have a lot of ESD coaching as well. And our building does, I remember the ESD day and we came out with a plan where she's coaching our teachers. You'll get where I'm bringing in the ESD, you'll get where my audacious ask, the reason why I have my audacious ask, because I think that instructional coaches are key in all our buildings. You know, we're on an uneven playing field right now. School districts that have instructional coaches and reading coaches that are going into the classroom, pushing and helping our teachers, helping teachers, that our teachers, our teachers are not. So those are the reasons why that's my biggest task.
And I would add that work started when we started hiring. So, Dr. Mans, you'll remember, I mean, we kept going back to the drawing board and re-interview. I think we had 3 rounds of interview because we really wanted to make sure we were hiring a highly qualified math teacher, but not only that, one that was endorsed in upper level math. Because we really felt that that was an area that we needed to focus on. We also knew that we needed to get somebody who was going to be willing to be coached. Right, that we needed to be able to bring them on board with some of our current teachers and make sure that they were open and had a growth mindset. And we did an excellent job, which has allowed us to do the work with the ESD.
I think also that goes with the trust in us, our HR department, HR director, saying that what you need, you know, our business guy Marshall, and I'm not gonna give him too much credit, but that goes with us communicating and saying, this is what we need, and they're like, okay, Mike, what you need, well, okay, Rachel, what you need, you wanna focus on that, this is what we're gonna do. And they support us 100%, so I really appreciate them for that. Also, the math, we see the increase. Want to talk about
Yeah, so really focusing on academics. I think last year the focus, at least for me, was really on getting the systems in place that we needed to have in place, meeting regularly, collaborating, establishing norms so that we could do the work that needed to be done. So one of the changes this year around Smarter Balance, and I read it as well, is that we actually have a planning committee. So we have a team that's already talking. So I've already, for example, trained our ELA teachers because they're actually doing the interims for Smarter Balance. So they've already been trained. We're already talking about what it looks like. We're already talking about how we're communicating with their families, getting it in their newsletter, letting them know that this is coming. Also looking at how we're providing makeups. In the past, it has been maybe more effective with how students are using that class time or correctly identifying those students that truly needed more time or a quiet workspace. We already got accommodations and everything needed over to the district office. So we're ready to go. When it comes to our Smart Balance. And again, it took a team. It wasn't something that I could have taken on by myself this year. I already incentives focused on growth. That's been huge, right? The kids are talking about it, and we're not talking. This was Iron Mountain Pouring that provided the specific. So we're talking like $50 gift certificates to places kids want to go. So we tried to make them big enough where they were really wanting this. Sumi's, McDonald's. I'm trying to think of some of the other places. Coffee stand. So
coffee stand, the Shell station. We want to do stuff in town as well. So Nike store gift card. I think in the McDonald's. So those are the things that are popular in our town that our kids love to go to. So we wanted to invest in that and also give our kids opportunity. So they keep asking Mr. Mayor, the window was extended, it was closed last week, so we're drawing this on Friday.
So communication, I would say, Michael does a really good job of getting out weekly sways, with a focus on academics. Like there's a section in there, so it's talking about ELA data. It's looking at our data saying, hey, we've seen an increase in kids outside of class, right? Here's a reminder. So one of the things that went out second semester was all our reminders about processes, right? How are we working to make sure kids are in class? Right, so if we've seen an increase in the health room, we needed to remind here's our process when students are needing that type of support. Increasing time in class, we also have reset data. We're really moving away from an in-school suspension model. Again, it's kind of historically always looked like that, but our goal is 15 minutes or less, right? We understand, right, we're human, that kids may need the opportunity to regulate, but providing them with that opportunity. And in fact, Ms. Kendra Pierce, who's currently in our reset room, attended our visit to Hidden River. We just felt like it was really important to kind of show her what they were doing in terms of resetting kiddos and getting them back into the class quickly, how also they were pushing in to provide that support in the classroom setting. So one of the things that happened that semester is we have her pushing into certain classes where we now have data that says, hey, this kiddo historically is not, able to make it through Washington State history. So we have our reset person pushing in. We also, huge shout out to Ms. Campbell, have her pushing in and supporting in Washington State history, which is a high school requirement. And then our Tiger Success class for some of our kiddos that may need tier 1 and services in the area of social, emotional, and behavior. So that's been huge as far as keeping those kiddos in class and access to grade level material. Because that's one of the things that gave us hope when we walked away from our visit at Hidden River was that it can be done and our kids deserve access to grade level content. And right now, just with our current model, it hasn't historically looked like that, but we're getting there. And then I think it's huge that a semester we had student-driven intervention classes, right, for both ELA and math. So that was not an easy task, and that was Mr. Maynard, our counselor, did a majority of that.
It's still stressing. Well, as you've seen at this smart balance, the school year, pretty much, it kind of looks similar. The trend data, I was looking at the trend data, that slide is not here, but the trend data before COVID in 2018, we were around 30% for urban growth. We were a little bit low now since COVID, but the trend data is showing us that we were moving back up. Right now, we're about 46%, so.
And that's my fault in the trend data. I hit it and then I think I forgot to hide it. So the important thing, if you go back to the smarter balance data, and remember this is oranges to apple. So really you're looking at, right, on 2021 and 22, you're looking at our 6th graders. So for example, ELA 19.5% were meeting standard. For 7th grade kids this year, 23.4%, 22.3%, excuse me, that's standard. So you're still seeing an increase. This isn't, when we're looking at iReady data, we're looking at the same kiddo, right? Over the growth of a year. When we start talking about state testing, we're actually talking about year to year and then different groups of kiddos, right? Because they live that, right? So that's kind of something important to look at. The cool thing that our trend data showed us, and we can maybe unhide it or Corey could. You unhide the slide?
I have a slide.
Yeah.
And when.
Oh, no worries. So the cool thing on our trend data is that we're back seeing the growth that we saw previous to COVID. So that was the really cool thing and why the trend data was important to include is just seeing that growth that we saw, we're kind of returning, closing that learning gap.
All right, so one thing I kind of want to focus on for our teachers, yes, there is some good teachers and hiring practices, but we have to break up our rigor and instruction. Our rigor and instruction and what we're seeing in our walkthroughs is not at the level that it should be. And that comes with professional development. So we're working on making sure that we're helping our teachers realize that if we bring up the rigor, the state test or the iReady test won't be so hard, it won't be so difficult for our students. So we're teaching at that level where it's level 2, level 3. they're used to that rigor when they hit these benchmarks or these, state tests. So basically, that's basically focusing on research, on high level instructional. So I'm putting things in place where teachers might not have been exposed. So I'm very kind of like diligent, I'm not trying to be forceful, diligent with our teachers because they're great teachers, They're great teachers in our building, and then they're willing to learn. Also, we have targets and success criteria. We've done a learning walk with our admin, and that's what we just focused on. Learning targets and success criteria. Are students talking to each other? Or are they just waiting for the teacher to talk? So those are the things that with instruction that we're definitely focusing on. Last thing is the growth mindset. Helping our teachers know that we're all in the business of learning. Everybody's learning, not just the students learning. And that's where we are with that. I'm glad we put that slide.
And then we used our data, which is really cool, because we had like a learning walk tool. So we just put our really quick data. We had about 4 or 5 questions that were really quick, like, did we see it, yes or no? And then we were able to use that data to go back and provide our teachers with some tools around student engagement and student talk. So we actually created discussion starters so that we're all using the same language around how we were framing student discussions in our classroom and what does student talk look like. So try to provide them some tools and then sent that out prior to a PLC day, which was a primary day, so that our math and teachers could really start talking about what that was going to look like in the classroom. So that was really helpful. So again, just one example of using our data to not only improve instruction, but also some of the behaviors that we mentioned in PBIS.
So I'm glad that the celebration slide is here because we have a lot to celebrate. Our students are coming, between 87 and 90% of our students are coming every day. So our attendance is coming, it's really on the rise. I was upset that the high school did this the other day in attendance, but then I was also upset that the middle of the Monte Cristo blew us out the water because they had 97% attendance one day. I look at that every day, our attendance, because I think those are things that students want to be here. It tells me what I'm doing wrong or right. They want to be here and they not want to be here. And it's showing that our students are coming, they want to be here. Now, I mean, I do know our community like to take some vacations, so parents call me, I'm not mad about it. I say, enjoy yourself, go listen and come back. So they're pretty happy with it. Another thing I like to celebrate is our first quarter honor roll students.
I think that's coming up.
Our first quarter honor roll students, they were.
And that picture was our leadership class, pushed in and did an activity for Disability Awareness Month in October. So that was really cool. Right. We also, there's a couple pictures at the end that came from that day as well. So this was just one activity of many. This is our leadership student and some of our students who are receiving service.
I'm gonna go back to this slide. Let's talk about things first. So our so now everybody wants to do an honor roll. I got parents calling about the honor roll celebration that we did at the high school now creates a big issue. I've had people stop me at the coffee stand, Mr. Man, you gotta tell this teacher to get a grade, so my kid need that honor roll. And I'm loving it because there wasn't even talking about it. So now parents are talking about it. Now people are talking about creating growth in the community. All these things are highlights of my year because they are talking about academics, they're talking about progress, they're talking about getting their reading scores up. So things like that, I'm loving it. My highlights of the year also was, I want to say our clubs, and I'm kind of jumping around because I want to talk about our clubs as well. Our clubs are, when I first got to middle school, I was a high school guy and I wasn't all about these clubs and it was like.
He was definitely hesitant. You said you have a D&D club, kids roller skate in your gym.
Yeah, so I'm like, but when you see the club, you see the craft club, you see the gaming club, you see the Beyblades club, kids have found their spot. Kids are loving it. So I'm loving it. I'm like, okay, and I try hard to go around and check on the clubs every day. And you will know which ones are having fun because you'll hear them thinking, I'm going down there thinking something happening, and they're just eating chips and things. So our clubs are pretty awesome. Our athletic program is doing great, going well. We had a good turnout for parent teacher conferences. I also was against the Halloween dance until I was there and seeing it. So I'm coming from high school and dances in middle school and craziness, and the kids love it. And when I left, I was like, it wasn't so bad. You know, I was here to provide.
And huge shout out, we had a parent, that came, I know the kiddo's name, last name of dad's different.
Dylan Moran.
Yeah, so, came and was here and present, which was huge, right? Just having a police presence made, I think, a huge difference, and definitely makes,
Almost in another district. Volunteered this time.
was huge, just the presence, so I think that made a huge difference.
So it was pretty awesome. Then our band concerts and our choir concert, we try to bring up our choir. And if you know that it started with 11, now we're down to 7, so Mr. Mayor, you gotta call your parent, you gotta get all kinds of approval before I say, yeah, you can transfer out. And, cause I'm trying to build a program up so we can see it. All right, going back to, our audition ask to the board. My ask will be is for dean of students. If we have a dean of students, it will help us become better instructional leaders in the classroom. We had 563 discipline incidents, and that's first semester. And that's a lot. That's a lot. This is my first year. My goal is to decrease that, and that's why we're doing these things. And if you had a dean of students, I don't think that we're gonna have some listening prevention where they can do, where they can do some prevention of discipline with our teachers, so that we can decrease some of those incidents.
And to clarify, I think that includes everything from attendance and cell phones to some of the major discipline incidents that Mr. Maynor and I handle. One of the things that we did do this year was we did provide training for our staff around what is office managed and what is classroom managed. And so it was really nice that second semester to review our discipline, but then also remind like, hey, this is something that's classroom managed, because if our teachers can manage it in the classroom, it means our kids are staying in class and they're not having to be pulled to talk with one of us. So that's been really huge to have that common language now and to reshare that, and they have a process. Nope, remember that's something that can be classroom managed. Hey, maybe try this next time. We've also used our discipline system to make notes. So we have a communication log that's a Google form that the Maynor started, which has been great. So it basically is, we're asking that our teachers track that communication. And so we also use Skyward for notes. So we have a teacher who's really good at, like, I get a referral from them and it's not really a referral. It's a, hey, I'm just documenting what happened. I already called home and this is my plan to meet with the parent or provide this intervention or seating change or whatever.
And our dean of students, my goal is our dean of students to teach our teachers as well, how to write a referral, how to contact the parent, how to deal with conflict between students. And that kind of stuff will help us be more instructional leaders. So, you already heard my spiel about the instructional coaches. I feel like it increases academic performance. The last thing I would say, more contractual language, more professionally done in time, so we can help our teachers grow and get better for our students.
So when we talk about student support team, that's 25 minutes I get with staff. That's 3 students, right? I mean, we're just kind of, it just doesn't allow a lot of time for us to be in front of our teachers, working with them, collaborating. And it becomes challenging at a secondary when you have time after, which is only 20 minutes because we have a lot of coaches. It also takes our buses. Like there's been days where I'm like 2:22, all the buses are gone, kids are safely home, nice job team. And at that time, right? So it would just, I think that just thinking about it when we're looking at next year, what that looks like. Teacher time is important. That's not what we're saying. We would just like more time in front of our staff.
Question?
Oh, yeah. Peter.
Go for it, Peter.
Okay, I guess I'll start with on the iReady side. So and this is, coincidentally, you guys have iReady presenting here. So this is more of like a district-wide thing for me to understand. the terminology that's within there, right? I see, to your point, I see one grade level behind as one grade level behind. And I'm having trouble discerning the difference here because you're saying, right, like they would be able to swim or right there. They're not quite ready to swim yet, so they're a grade level behind. If they're ready to jump into the water, then they're there. I read that as they're not proficient in the previous grade.
No. So as you think, it's okay if I jump in on this, okay?
Yeah.
As you, the benchmark that we're measuring against is, so it's criterion reference, we're looking at standards that we're measuring against for that grade level. So when they say one grade level below, it is truly that those students are proficient at the grade level below standards. They have mastered the standards for that grade
Okay.
level, which means they're ready to go move on to the next grade level standards. Now, I will say, we are always looking at that by the end of the year is where we want them to be. So as I really appreciated that they were thinking about now, I mentioned at the beginning of the year, one grade level below is actually okay where students are at because they're ready to access their grade level instruction. As we've shifted now to the second semester, they were using one grade level below as a measure for an intervention class. And that's appropriate now at this point in the year, because by the midpoint of the year, we want students actually getting into their grade level standards.
Okay.
And so we would expect them to be either early on grade level or mid on grade level at this point in the year to show that they're making progress at their current grade levels.
Okay.
So I guess, can I add?
Yeah.
So I've been with a lot of students and their parents, and one student didn't want to take the Reading Success course. So I brought her in and looked at the data and kind of walked through the data with her. She was one grade level below, she was in the yellow, and that's what got her in. But then she was like, "Mr. Man, I love you." And I said, "Well, let's look at all of them." So she was proficient into the green last year on her SBA. But she's one grade level below the last page. So that's the kind of stuff that you have to go back and check and just don't say, "Oh, one grade level below." And so I went back and she was proficient. So that was a great question.
So basically, if I put the precursor of is proficient in, then insert the moniker that's in there, is proficient in one grade level below, is proficient in early, you know, whatever. So it's like you're saying what they have already accomplished.
Yes, that would be a great way to think about it.
Okay, so then my other ask here is a lot of our iReady data that I've seen over the years that we have had it. Right, like we were just at Mountain Way two meetings ago, and right, there's 3 grades there, and 46% of students were 2 grades behind, right? The maximum amount of grades that you could be behind. And when I look at, especially when we get into the further years, I see something like we seem like we have a very fine-tooth comb looking through one grade, and that's the grade that you're in, right? Are you right where you're supposed to be? Are you a little bit above? Or are you greatly above? And then everything below that is just lumped into 2 categories. And I'm wondering, how are we, especially when you get into like 7th and 8th grade, it's like, I mean, they could be 6 grade levels behind for all we know, you know, and when I see, you know, 158 students are 3+, I mean, that's 35% of the student population is in elementary school proficiency or below, right? And so how are you guys using that data? And is this data useful to you?
Yes, so that data is very useful because talking to Dr. Mans, I want those students to come back in August, those 2 more, that's in August, that to get 3 weeks to some summer school or summer enrichment program, so we kind of get a jump start. So those students, and also you gotta get those students have 2 years, so the 6th grader, that's 2 grade level below, by 8th grade, my goal is to get them on grade. And that's what our reading data tells us. The 2 more, you plan the long way.
Yeah.
Yellow, but short day. So, and I learned that digging into the already. So I'm really happy about that because I had the same question. And what I already said, well,
If you do this, you do that, and you help your teachers get into that data, the two or more is.
Yeah, and, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to add, you mentioned that fine tooth comb at the on grade level, and then how do we know when it says two or more? You know, that an eighth grader could be placing at a fifth grade level
Yeah.
or a third grade level, and that's a big difference. Overall, that's what it looks like. When teachers look at it and they look at the domain level placement, it tells them exactly what grade level that student's placing at. So they can see, is the student placing at second grade or is the student placing at fifth grade? So it does get to that level.
Yeah, my main thing is, right, obviously, I'm not in these walls on a daily basis. It's just ensuring that you have the tooling and the ability, because it is great that teachers can see that. Are our teachers customizing to that level, right?
And that's what I was gonna say, like the power of this data is when we're getting it, we're creating the time and the structures to get it in front of teachers so that they are partnering and collaborating as part of our PLCs to inform instruction.
Okay.
So part of what we saw in Hidden River, which was really powerful, is that, which we've started to look at here, is their time, right, on their early release days was actually spent in a team. So it was 2 ELA teachers, for example, let's pick sixth grade, and then they had a special education teacher, and they actually team planned. And not only did they team plan, but they talked about what they were gonna do if students didn't meet that standard. And then they were able to group students that way, right? So you had one teacher who was maybe even doing an enrichment for kiddos that were ready to move on, right? That mid or above. And then you had a group that maybe they were pulling into small group. And then you maybe had some kids that we needed to do some reteaching. And so I think where the power and the data comes is making sure that our teachers are using it to inform instruction. We're not there.
That's the actually special development to teach them how to go deeper inside data, not just throw it down. Just go, let's go deeper and use that for standards, bring standards out, and bring out lessons that focus on really standards.
And our teachers are asking more time, so some of our solution tree work that we attended, we really put this, we were really, at the beginning, like, we were holding them accountable, like, process, this is what we're doing. And what we realized is we didn't have enough time in the school year to really run that data cycle, because we have teachers that share subjects. So in order for them to be a part of an ELA, maybe they're also a part of a history, and we have primary and secondary professional learning communities. And so our teachers are asking for time. And I think Dr. Mann, you can speak to it, but that's also what our PLC teams are saying is the time to really make sure that not only, I think the teachers have the data, but do they have the time to really look at it? And then are we actually informing instruction? And I think that's where we're at, we're getting there. I think hugely improved as far as what that time is being used for compared to years past. And I think that's district-wide.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, that's super helpful. And then the other thing that I had was around, so you mentioned the reset, right? Kind of removing the in-school suspension stuff and just saying, hey, let's get a 15-minute reset, figure out what's going on, and then maximizing classroom time. Completely understand that. Do we know how that is affecting? Because then I guess I'll tie this into another point that I had. So, right, the big ask of Latina students and 563 discipline incidents, that's over 6 a day on average. Once again, those range all over the place. How much is something like reset affecting the rest of the population of students? Like, what are the mechanisms in place to ensure that somebody's not just putting the reset they brought out and 3 more incidents occur, right?
Yeah, so we work well with our campus monitors, our ISS or our reset teacher. And that we all know that giving the kid a chance, it might have a bad morning. Kid might have had breakfast. Mom might have got on the kid for not taking out the trash. So they might come to school upset first period, which we have very normal doing first period. I can tell you our reset starts kind of like
Fourth period, lunch.
fourth period is the period. First and third is fourth period is the period. So it might be home. Those things that we're not going to pull out all of it. I was in Dean for 4 years. I also did ISS, all day thing.
Yeah.
Being here, learning about reset, the student have a great opportunity to succeed. It makes me feel better to come home today. I had a bad day early, picked it up. I was great at the end of the day. I even got a ball. So I think that kind of stuff, we said it's much better. Teachers build kind of some be within school community. It does not affect our population of school as a whole. I do believe that it can be better, the system can be better, and we're working with everybody involved.
Yeah, and I bring that up just because obviously with our SPED conversations and behavior, behavior concerns at like the elementary schools, and that has been directly, mentioned that, it's disrupting classrooms from having effective learning time. And so I just looked at this as kind of analogous to like a middle school version.
So our process, right, for something where a kid continues to be our steps, so we got those reminders out. So our process for a kiddo who doesn't respond in the classroom to redirection and continues to disrupt learning of others is they call the office. Our office radios for an escort. That teacher provides work. So that's the handoff, right? So we have an actual adult coming to get them. We ensure we have a space for them to work because our reset person does have lunch and there's days where we're doing reset. So for example, Mr. Maynard had a student in his office. Our school support advocate was de-escalating a student. I'm maybe walking the track with a student. That tends to be the tool that works for me. And so it's nice to be able to do that with kids as well. So that's what it looks like. So the disruption, I would say, is more like when they're thinking of office managed, it's the walkies.
Yeah.
And those aren't happening in the classroom. Our teachers don't have walkies, right? It's our office staff is those that are responding. So a teacher's cue when students maybe need a different plan. The other cool thing is we now have some of our special education teachers pushing into classes. So they don't need to, get that direct instruction. Maybe they're already there and they can take the kid out for a reset as part of the kid's plan. So we have some kids, like I was sharing, and you saw them, Ms. McLaughlin just does a lot of like cute little things and things which are really cool, but kids personalize them. So they get to pick what color they want, like their free passes for a day. We have some kids that have like an if then. So like if I work, my teacher signs it, I get to go work in the counseling center and sit in a beanbag. So I would say we have a lot of, especially by second semester, we have kiddos that are just on a plan. We know that unfortunately that they're still practicing and working to regulate and they're going to need more practice and more time maybe than others. So I would say that it's a minimum because our response time is quick, right? That process is call the office, get an escort. We've got timers, sometimes we'll set them, but we're not going to send a kid back escalated. Our goal is 15 minutes. We're going to ask, we're going to push kiddos, but we also aren't going to set the kids up to fail or the teachers for that matter by sending a kid back escalated.
Right.
And we also have Tiger Success class. So Mr. Maynard didn't talk about this, but this was kind of his baby coming in. So it was a non-negotiable for him that all of our kids would get tier 1 social emotional instruction, right? So that means that all of our kids for 1 semester, we also kind of preloaded kids that we knew might need not only maybe direct instruction, but also some tier 1 supports. And so we have kiddos that have that class, that they're learning the language. So we talk about flipping our lid. We talk about, what are your tools in your toolbox? So one of our teachers.
Everybody knows who to be with.
Mr. Mayor may have used it today.
Mr. Mayor, this teacher almost flipped her lid. So everybody knows they're learning the SEL language because they know when something just is not right.
Yeah.
My behavior is not right, and adult behavior is not right. And they will tell you when the adult behavior is not right, well, obviously the first one they get out of the I don't feel this.
And behavior is communication, right? So there's something we got to figure out about what those kiddos need. And I would say the same for our littles too, right? They're still practicing, right? They're still navigating, they're still learning to be a student, and change is hard. And then you talk about middle school, there's a lot of change. Like middle schoolers, if anything, are unpredictable, right? So it's challenging working with a kiddo who doesn't like change, and you have them with, 467 kiddos who also maybe don't like change. So it's challenging. Some days go great and the system's working, and some days there's just not enough of us to respond. And I think what we're realizing and feeling is that we're just not getting the time in the classrooms to be instructional leaders. When the year started out, we were doing learning walks and having
better and more equipped. So this, the special education kind of thing, we really kind of push back on that because of it's a thing, it's a thing of just special education and behavior. I don't want to think of that. We have to focus on the kid, and we definitely, me and her talked a lot about, you know, the special education kind of topic about, you know, well, if this kid is special education, we need behavior, that's what. It's some things that we're doing, you know, we're doing wrong, and kind of like we still weed it out. We have behavior classroom where we shouldn't have it. So we're thinking about changing our matrix with the help of our HR department, the help with our, you know, teaching and learning superintendent. Those are things we're looking at, going to figuring out where you have students that's coming that, which you would quote special ed, and have behavior, they're still in general education classes 70% of the time. So I'm not going to put 14 behaviors in one class. I'm setting the teacher up with them.
Yeah.
The teacher will quit at the end of the year because every day she got to go to this class and he got to go to this class, 14 different behaviors.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that next year. That's the things we're trying to change.
All right, well, I appreciate it. That's all that I have.
I'm good. I really appreciate the two of you and what you've done in the middle school this year. I see the progress. I hear it in the community. It's a special place right now. And along with the administration that's assisting you, I just, my hat's off to you.
Yeah, it takes a team. Definitely, when it says takes a village, it does.
One of the things that I wanted to say was just a kudos to you guys. Before I was on the school board and I was like the angry mom, you know,
You're
One of-
advocating mom.
the advocating mom. One of the things that I had brought to the superintendent at the time is, you know, why are you not going out to other schools that are successful in things and meeting with them and asking them what they're doing right and how can we do those things? And so for you guys to say, you know, you went to the middle school in Monroe and working together to figure out what's working and what doesn't work and stuff is an awesome thing. So I encourage more of that. And I think that's awesome that you guys did that.
It's kind of like, you know, like Roadrunner. My kids still watch the old cartoons. Roadrunner's spinning around making dust and you're going around the dust. You just like take your head out of the cloud or out of the dust and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you girls have any questions?
No, I'm okay.
No? All right. Thank you guys very
Yeah,
much. We
thank you.
appreciate it.
And I just want to let you guys know too about the hidden slide. I downloaded the older version, so you guys have.
Maybe keep going here.
That's all right.
Fine.
Okay. Moving along to, let's see, item 5A is items from the floor. Do we have any? Nope, no items from the floor. Move on. 6A unfinished business, there is none. And now, 7, new business. A, approval of superintendent contracts. Is there any discussion?
Could make jokes.
You can make jokes.
Let's not.
No.
Bill, you got anything now?
No.
Okay, we'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the superintendent contract.
Seconded.
All right. The motion has been made and seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, excuse me. First reading to amend policy 1410, executive or closed sessions. Any discussions?
Nothing from my side. I mean, normally, I know Josh would kind of give the rundown
Yeah.
and stuff, but this seems.
It looks like it wasn't much changes.
No.
It's just some verbiage, so.
Watch the recommendations.
Watch their recommendations, okay. So I will make a motion that we approve the first reading to amend policy 1410, executive or closed sessions.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First reading to amend policy 1440, minute. Just another one.
Watch the recommendation.
All watch the recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, then I am good with it.
Motion.
I'll make a motion that we, approve the changes of that. So,
Approve the first reading to amend,
yes.
1440 minutes.
Yeah, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First reading to amend policy 5011, sexual harassment of district staff prohibited.
And
Any discussion?
no,
Nope. Okay, I will make a motion that we approve the first reading to amend policy 5011, sexual harassment of district staff prohibited.
second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And first reading to amend policy 6215, voucher certification and approval. Any discussion?
No. I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading to amend policy 6215, voucher certification and approval.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least, the first reading to adopt policy 6550, title capitalization threshold for leases and subscription. Discussion?
No.
No?
Neither.
Okay. I will make a motion that we accept the first reading to adopt policy 6550, title capitalization threshold for leases and subscription.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty. Next is number 8, consent agenda. Looks like we have some additions. Any discussion? Okay, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with additions.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. That is it. It is now 7:31. That brings an end to the meeting of the Granite Falls School District. Ooh.